Maximizing Sina Weibo. Now this is thoughtful. Hello, I'm Trevor Lai in Shanghai. This week on Thoughtful China, we're looking at the best strategies and products to help brands build long-term relationships with consumers on the Sina Weibo platform. In short, how to turn fans into BFFs. Our guest this week is Ken Hong, General Manager of the Sina Weibo platform at Sina Corporation and CEO of Convergence. Ken, you've been on our show before, speaking on a panel with Jonathan Xia from Starcom, as well as Sam Fleming from CIC. At that time, you were the MD of Razorfish and Digitas in China. Why did you move to Sina?
Well, thanks for having me back first. I think it's been almost about 7 months already. To answer your question, I thought, again, my role right now is helping Sina to monetize the Weibo platform. And I thought that was a very interesting challenge, given the popularity of the Sina Weibo platform within China from a consumer's adoption perspective. But now the challenge is how do we turn this into a marketing platform? So I thought it was a unique challenge, the timing and everything. I thought that's an opportunity I couldn't pass on. So.
And naturally, the second question is, what is Convergence?
That's a good question. So the story was, when Sina approached me, so we want to form a team and actually potentially a separate company who does this kind of social media marketing products and services, kind of operating, also have some independencies outside of the Sina organization. So we want to give this a name because we also want to form this potential third-party company to do this. And so I have to figure out a name, and then turning out the naming a company is not as easy as I thought. So convection is the name that I pick. Convection itself means obviously transferring of the heat. And S stands for social media. So I thought that in my mind, what we are trying to do is harnessing that power within the Sina Weibo platform, transfer that energy, between the consumers and brands. So that's the meaning behind this. So I made up a word, but it's convection social. So.
Well, why would you choose to leave off the Sina brand in terms of creating the naming for the new organization? I understand the independence angle, but a lot of people would argue if Weibo is the platform that you're trying to monetize and push, why the choice to leave that off?
Well, I think the thinking behind this, obviously, we're starting with the Sina Weibo as the platform that we're developing products and services on, but potentially the products and these products and services can span across different social media platform down the road as well. So that's the thinking. So we just want to kind of leave that option open, I guess.
And you recently gave a speech called Turning Fans into BFFs. Yeah. And you said social CRM was a part of this, but that a lot of marketers were missing the bigger picture. What did you mean by that?
Well, first of all, when we were talking about, I spent the last 6 or 7 months, talking to different brands and talking to agencies and different brands. And I felt that almost everybody obviously have started to invest in the social media and have accounts on Weibo and things like that. But I think one of the common struggle or challenge that most of these brands are facing is, what do I do with these fans? I think it's more about growing the relationships, between the brands and these consumers, on the social media, on the Weibo platform. So then I thought that maybe, trying to, I find an easy phrase for people to remember this, and I thought that I don't have any teenage girls or daughter or anything at home, but I thought that BFF is maybe capturing what, what brands are trying to accomplish in the social media anyway. So how do you turn these fans into best, not maybe just friends, but also best fans forever, as well. So I think that's something that most of brands are struggling right now. But I think, to answer your question, I think a lot of the brands are still focusing on right now, I want more fans. I think that still remains to be part of the marketing objective. But I think not enough brands or agencies are thinking about, what do I do with these fans? What do I do with these users?
How do you deepen the relationship?
Absolutely, strengthening the relationship and really creating more value, I would say, from this community, from the fan base.
And you've said before you believe data is a big part of this in terms of helping advertisers target these fans and then actually learning more about them so that they can strengthen the relationship, as you just said. So talk more about how to use data in the way that you've just mentioned.
Well, I love data. So, and I think, in digital media, including social media, because there's so much information, so much things that we can track, and there's a ton of consumer insights within that. So data, I think, again, well, that's a big term as well. There are a lot of things, but I think there are a couple things that brands can start thinking about. The first thing is, if you think about the social CRM concept, just like any other CRM concept, you got to understand the consumer base, your customer database first. So understanding who these people are, the profile of these people, but I think in this sense, I think the profile in social media is richer than a lot of the other traditional CRM program that you're thinking about, maybe the phone number, your name, your address, your purchase history. But within social media, you also have data around social interest graph, their social behavior, their networks and all that stuff. So that kind of information is all part of data, first of all, helping to understand who these people are. Secondly, I think based on these kind of data, how do you segment your users, right? Within Nike, for example, they have 12 Weibo accounts on Sina Weibo. Basketball, football, training, running, so on and so forth. So some of these consumers might follow multiple brands. Some might follow, the Nike, the overall brand. But understanding within these fans, what do they want, what their behaviors are. So segmenting that's also what data can do. So that's the second point, I think, using data to segment it. The third thing, I think, also as another characteristics within the social CRM space is, I think another key concept is these social users in the social space, in addition to their direct relationship with you, between the consumer and the brand, they also play a social role for your brand. So for example, some people, they can be key influencers and key opinion leaders, so you're not only affecting them individually, in turn they can help you to build your brand, affecting their friends. So that's also based on data, based on their behavior, social behavior, what they say, what they do. So I think, again, combining these different sources of data, I think will help brands to have a more holistic, comprehensive view of these customers, these fans, and then I think, again, finding ways to segment them and better, I would say, unleash the value, potential value within it.
And as part of your job also when you're working with your clients and partners, really educating them about some of these big terms, as you've said, data is a term that's thrown around a lot, and also apps. Everyone talks about apps, but really there's a lot of different types of apps, and you've talked before about these sort of flash in the pan apps versus utility-based long-term relationship building apps. Talk a little bit about the specific differences you see between the two and how they might work with Weibo.
I think it's huge. A lot of brands right now, they are building some of the apps, or as you guys, campaign-based pages and apps. I think those are necessary to support campaigns, but I think brands need to think more about providing these utility-based, as you said. The reason why I think that's important is because as you want to build this long-term engagement and long-term relationship, you got to give them the reason why they want to come to your enterprise Weibo account. What kind of information or utility or things that you can provide to these consumers. I give you one example that one of our partners developed this hotel online booking app, and right now about close to 2,000 hotels have installed that app on their enterprise Weibo accounts. That's a utility-based app. So this it solves specific problems for consumers. So now they can come to the enterprise Weibo account, look up the room information, enter the information, and they can make the booking right there. So that solves specific consumer problems, and I think that gives a very specific reason for why consumers will come back to your account and have this ongoing, interaction, engagement with you. So this is beyond the traditional content-based, feed-based communications. So that's why I think these utility-based apps are so important in helping building these long-term relationships.
So if we're talking about utility-based apps, we have to talk about Tencent's Wechat, which obviously is gaining a lot of popularity here. Does it worry you at all? I mean, their growth, the popularity, and now the ubiquity of the app on all sorts of mobile devices.
Get this question a lot, and I think, honestly, personally, I'm a WeChat user as well. But I think, honestly, if you look at these two products, I think they are very different products. I think, again, the Weibo's characteristics, I think it's a great platform for brands to quickly get their message out to a very large audience base. So I think that's what Weibo is really good at. And I think WeChat, I think it's also a good product, but I think it's more fitting for one-to-one direct communications. It's effective in terms of I just want to send a specific message to you. But I think what WeChat does not have is the, again, kind of the secondary, viral effect, in terms of that message. How do you share that with other friends? So again, I think for brands, brands should look at these products, again, they're for different purposes. So I don't view them as direct competitors. I think it's more different products and providing to brands to think about how to use that for different purposes.
When I study the international markets, though, and I look at examples, say in North America, where you've got Facebook and Amazon and Apple and Google, and when they first started out, they all sort of had their really distinct services as well, whether it was search or retail, et cetera. But we've seen over the last 2 years, the convergence and now the conflict in a lot of the cases of these big giants does occur. So whereas they started off, as you mentioned, with their really specific skill sets or services and functions, they eventually expanded to the point where now, whether Facebook develops a search engine or Google goes into social, there is that real overlap here. Do you see that happening? Is that something you have to consider and plan ahead for?
Yeah, I think that's something that you definitely should think about. Now, I think, as you said, I think each product or platform, you probably has a kind of the core utility or core usage. That's how consumers perceive, in terms of what this platform is. I think just like you said, Google mainly still as a search engine. But I think, just like Weibo right now, I mean, consumers use it as feeds and get information and things like that. However, I think, as platforms and all these companies, I think, it's also very difficult to draw a clear line or box around these services because I think some of the extended features or functionalities make sense, but you have to judge based on, from this core usage of your platform, is this a logical addition in terms of functionalities and features. But I think that kind of thinking is important in terms of building a platform has rich functionalities, but also still solves specific consumer problems. But I think what you shouldn't do is you blindly copy just another new products in the marketplace and you try to force them together. I think that might not be a good experience. It does not provide. It might be too, you can't force consumers to
overextend your brand.
Yeah, exactly.
Overextend
So
your brand
I think
areas,
you kind of have to build an ecosystem of what makes sense to your core offering. So,
Ken, thanks for being on Thoughtful China.
Thank you for having me.
That wraps it up for today. Be sure to subscribe to us on Tudo and YouTube. You can also follow us on Weibo and Twitter and join our LinkedIn group. See you again.